I'm back, week 11 in the books, and we just have 2 weeks left to see who will play in the Shiva and who will join the Has-Beens, Team Frank, Sirius, and Team Wilson in the consolation bracket. That will ultimately lead us to our first ever Sacco Boy. Okay, let's get a look at last week's games. Now, we had 2 Snorefest games last week. First up, Team Frank, who actually had 9 guys in his lineup, but only one had double digits, as Tom Brady pitched in 16. He did have 6 players score 5 or less. Now, the finest gets by with all that help with the 84-51 win, with very little help from his core guys. Even Peyton Manning only had 18. Now, this is Peyton Manning's second game under 20 all season, so still not bad. Now, the finest do get my What Were You Thinking award again this week. This time for cutting Tampa Bay running back and my player/sleeper player of the week, Bobby Rainey. Now, that's not why he gets the award for cutting a player that wins the Player of the Week award. He gets it for cutting him for defense. Not just the defense, the Rams defense. Not just the Rams defense, but the Rams defense that was on bye. As Homer Simpson used to put it, duh. Okay, Snorefest number 2. The individuals now must be serious about the consolation bracket, or risk being Sacco Boy, as Playoff Bound takes another step toward the Shiva with the 92-59 win. He was led by Cam Newton's 28, Rashard Jennings' 25, and Josh Gordon threw in 18. Now, Bound did take some risks this week as he picked up the Lions defense, who are a bunch of thugs, and Dreadhead Trent. Well, the two of them combined for 2 points, but still Bound held on to the victory and his shot at the Shiva for another week. Okay, the Has-Beens, they entered this game versus Team Wilson with a chance to start their first winning streak. Well, it wasn't in the cards. Wilson, behind Antonio Brown's 26, and co-sleeper of the week Bills defense with 22, helped him get the win, 104-82. The Has-Beens did have 5 players with 10 or more, but they were basically grounded by the 3 that scored 3 or less. Now, both these teams, they're headed to the consolation bracket in 2 weeks, where I think they'll meet again. Okay, the battle for the number 1 seed between my Privates and the Misfits had 4 players score 22 or more, but we also had 9 players score 10 or less. The Privates avenged one of their early season losses, 114-99, led by Shady McCoy's 26, RG3's 25, and my boy Matt Forte pitched in 18. The Misfits did have my co-chumps of the week, the trio of Jimmy Graham, Purple Jesus, and, yes, Kardashian-loving Reggie Bush had 3. The total 13 for the 3 players. That's what one of them usually gets, and a really good half. If it wasn't for Vincent Jackson, who responded from being my chump of the week last week by putting in 22 this week, this game could have been really ugly. Okay, now, the game of the week had 261 combined points, 7 players over 20, and believe it or not, 4 players scored 2 or less. Led by Bobby Rainey, yeah, Ruxin, you should really buy Will a steak dinner. He led the way with 36. Calvin Johnson, who was the number 1 non-quarterback fantasy player despite basically missing 2 full games, had 29 this week. Chris Johnson and Russell Wilson each added 20 as the Monsters edged Team DeAndre, 134-127. Now, DeAndre continues his masterful way with picking up defenses each week. This week he grabbed the Bengals, who brought back 2 touchdowns and led them to 28 points. Nick Foles didn't throw a touchdown this week, but he did run one in, Vulture, and got his 24. And the Beast, Marshawn Lynch, continues to roll this week with 23. Now, these 2 teams will scramble for victories the last 2 weeks of the season to earn a shot at the Shiva. All right, next week we got Team Frank, who once again is looking for the first win, this time versus a very serious individual. The Has-Beens will try and put a bump in the finest's road to a shot at the Shiva with a win this week. Team Wilson will attempt to end my Privates' season-long 7-game winning streak as he tries to handle my Privates. 2 games are really big this week with Shiva implications as Team DeAndre tries to continue the Misfits' tailspin and hand them their 3rd consecutive loss, and Playoff Bound takes on Ruxin in basically a must-win for both teams. Guys, quick reminder, trade deadline is tomorrow, Wednesday, November 20th at noon. All trades have to be accepted and proposed and accepted prior to noon. I can approve them after that, and they'll still go through. So get it while you can. Until next week, later.